that it's now 7:34 and we will reconvene the regular meeting. May I ask the clerk to call the roll, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Here.
Mr. Manginelli?
Here.
Mr. Siebert?
Here.
Ms. Buckley?
Here. Will the Director of Law please summarize the executive session discussion?
Yes, prior to the regular meeting tonight, we did have an executive session. There were 3 topics listed on the resolution, although we only got to discuss 2 of those topics due to the time constraints. We had a discussion about contract negotiations pertaining to Famara properties. And the second item was contract negotiations with local bargaining units. And I would point out that that discussion is a prelude to Resolution 21-196 that is on the agenda for tonight pertaining to the PBA, an agreement with the PBA Local 251. And that was the extent of our discussions in executive session tonight.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. There's one set of meeting minutes for approval this evening. May I have a motion to approve the July 13th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Yes.
Mr. Manginelli?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes, thank you. I'm moving on to reports. We'll start with Mr. Neff, our Borough Engineer.
Thank you, Council President. Just 2 items. One is on the consent agenda. We have a resolution of award for a contract for the sidewalk improvement program. That's with Your Way Construction. We have worked with them in the past, so I have no objections to this award. The 2 areas that this would apply to is the south end of Fox Chase Drive, replacing the asphalt walkway that's there now with new concrete sidewalk, and then also Shrewsbury Ave from Newman Springs Road down to Sycamore, filling in the missing sections there and upgrading some of the handicap ramps. And then the only other item I wanted to mention was at Wardell Park. It is getting used quite extensively. As great as it is, there's been a few concerns over some of the noise from the pickleball, so just for everyone's awareness, the borough is looking into that, and we are most likely going to be installing some sound barriers along the fence there to help with that noise. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fallon, our CFO and acting BA.
Good evening, Council President. Just have a couple items as well. I recently received the 2021 Municipal Best Practices Inventory from the state of New Jersey. That needs to be filed early in November, which I will do, and I'll report on it at the November 9th meeting, the results of that. The 2022 budget process has officially begun. Departmental budget requests will be distributed next week, and we will be adhering to the statutory budget calendar as we have done in the past. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fallon. Mayor Perillo, do you have a report this evening?
I have no report for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Starkey, our Director of
I also have no report for this evening. Thank
All right, Mrs. Hessler.
I also have no report this evening.
All right, thank you. Moving on to council reports, Mrs. Clay.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I'm going to break the trend. I do have a report. I would just like to share that last week, right? Our cannabis subcommittee met, and thanks to the hard work of our borough professionals and our attorney and my fellow council person, Mr. Manginelli, I feel like we're making excellent progress, and I'm looking forward to us coming up with a fair and acceptable ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Mangiello, for your
No report tonight. Thank you, Council President.
Okay. Mr. Nessie's not here, so Mr. Siebert.
The next library board meeting is this Thursday. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And for my report, Environmental Commission meeting was held in person last week, and we had a few members of the public who were in attendance, which is great. Talked a lot about recycling, and the next one will be at the end of this month. I'll announce that at the end of the next meeting. Since Mr. Nessie's not here, I'll just announce that there's a planning board meeting next Wednesday, the 13th. And that's all for my report. Moving on to ordinances for introduction. There's one ordinance on for introduction this evening. I'd like to remind the public that when an ordinance is introduced, there's no public discussion. The public discussion for the following ordinance will take place when it's up for final consideration. With that, may I ask the clerk to read the title of the first ordinance?
Ordinance 2021-1479, an ordinance authorizing and regulating residents keeping backyard chickens, and to amend Section 40-37 of the Land Use Regulations to allow keeping of backyard chickens. The public hearing will be held on October 19th, 2021, or as soon thereafter as the matter can be reached on the agenda.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the introduction of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Yes.
Mr. Mancinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes. And for the edification of the public, this is an ordinance that would need to go to planning board for review, which is why there's a note on there that we anticipate that being done at the next planning board meeting, but if it's not, it'll be done at the next council meeting whenever after the planning board gets to review it. There are no ordinances for final consideration this evening, so that brings us to the open public discussion. May I have a motion to open the public discussion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
This is the time the public may comment on any topic of their choice. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3. Would anyone like to comment this evening?
Greg Gately, 10 Polo Club Drive.
Hi, Mr. Gately, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, the first thing, I'm strongly in support of the backyard chickens. I was reading over the ordinance. I wish it was a lot less restrictive. I mean, it seems extremely restrictive, in my opinion. The fact that you have to have at least a half-acre land, that it limits the overwhelming majority of property owners in town are limited by that restraint. I think that's wrong. It's elitist. Only 4 hens is too restrictive. You should be able to have more. And the fact that for the pilot program it's only going to be 25 licenses, that's far too few. It's in the way it's written, it's almost as if you don't trust your fellow neighbors to be responsible property owners, because it's just so unbelievably restrictive and there's so many rules in it. So, but in the end, I'll obviously want you all to vote for it because I think it's a good step in the right direction and giving property owners some actual rights back, which is rare to see nowadays. It's always restricting our rights more. So, in that regard, it's a good step forward. But I really hope after the pilot program's over in the 2 years, you really loosen the reins on it. And I would love to volunteer to be on that committee for the chicken committee or whatever you call it, that you're looking for people to be on. So that's all I had to say on that. Does anybody know if there's any other towns in the entire county that canceled their community day this fall?
I don't know off the top of my head. Do you know, Tom?
I don't really keep track of that, but I'm aware of at least one. But again, that just came to my attention. Neptune has canceled it.
Okay. Because I was really shocked, and it's really unfortunate that Tinton Falls canceled the community day at the end of August. I was stunned by that. Because really, Eatontown just did one on Saturday. I know Mattawa and Aberdeen have just done theirs in the past couple weeks. And I think it's really unfortunate because I think it's a great day. And I've only been here for 2 years, and that was like my first 2 years ago. I went to the community day. It was good. And my kids got introduced to like local sports organizations and stuff like that. It was a great, introduction to the community for us, and it's really sad that you're not doing it this year, and I think it's unnecessarily canceled. And then I was happy to hear about the Cannabis Commission, your comments, Councilwoman Clay, but you said pass something that meets parental approval. What does that mean exactly? Your last comments, you said, we hope to come up with something that'll meet, I thought you said parental.
No, I'm sorry, I said council.
Okay, council, okay, all right, no problem.
Yeah, parental would be a whole nother ballgame.
Okay, yeah, that's, I just misheard then. And I look forward to something coming forward from the Cannabis Commission. Hopefully we can change and overturn the ban that we currently have from the summer. That's all I had, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gately. Does any other member of the public have a comment? Okay, Melissa, I believe there was one written comment.
Yes. This comment was received on September 28th. It was submitted by Michelle Schneider, who is a resident at 729 Sycamore Avenue. She said, "Hello, I heard the awesome news about the proposed chicken ordinance. I know if passed, only a small number of the homeowners will be able to apply for a license. I would love to be one of them. I own 729 Sycamore Avenue, which is an old historic farmhouse. I have just under 2.5 acres that's completely fenced in. I would like to be considered as one of the possible homes to have chickens. I would keep them inside in a coop and have a separate fenced area for them. I would graciously attend any training classes and home checks. In fact, I welcome it. This will be all new to me, and I look forward to learning a lot. Thank you for your consideration. If there is a future meeting or information on this matter, please let me know." Sincerely, Michelle Schneider.
Thank you, Melissa. One last chance for anyone in the room if they have a comment.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Smith Graham. I'm at 3 Denise Court, Tinton Falls, New Jersey. I am again expressing my concern about domesticated animals and chickens being right next door. I have a black lab that I cannot even feather dust in the house with, and this dog is up and in this feather duster. If a chicken were to land in my yard, this dog has lunch. I'm gonna make no bones about it, and I can't get to that dog fast enough. What are the consequences now to me as a homeowner, me as a pet owner, and what liabilities do I have? Does my neighbor then call the police? My neighbor's dog is attacking my chickens, and the next thing I know, I have an officer with a weapon drawn who is now not sure if I have a vicious animal on property. I mean, this is really, could get huge, and I'm very concerned about this.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate
Which
your
is why
email
we
as
should
well.
then keep that.
Sorry, guys, can we just keep it to the one person speaking? Mr. Starkey, you look like you wanted to, did you want to comment on that?
I was just going to say, as a general matter, you're obligated to maintain control of your animal, your dogs, and that, let me finish.
If it lands in my yard.
I understand the question. That means that, when the dog is out of the house, dog needs to be on a leash, meaning off your property. When the dog is in your yard, the dog needs to be fenced in. If something or someone else comes, onto your property over your fence, especially some other animal, that's not your problem as long as your dog is maintained on your property, fenced in. If you have any concern about that, if you have concerns about animals coming onto your property, you should call either code enforcement or the police department, because that's not your problem, that's your neighbor's problem, your neighbor's concern, because they have the same obligation you do to maintain their animals on their own property.
You have to understand, in the moment, you have dead animals before any of that happens. You just do.
I understand that, and that's why I'm saying your obligation.
You can't react quick enough.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not gonna happen. And the other side of that is the way I read everything within Chapter 8, which is animal control, that chickens are not considered domesticated animals. They're considered poultry. Therefore, my dog wouldn't be liable if it attacked it.
I just go back to what I said before. Your obligation with your dog is to maintain control of your dog off your property and then keep it fenced in your backyard.
Right, and I do know that chickens can come up and over a fence. I've seen it a million times in my life. So, okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. If there are no other public comments, hearing no further comments, may I have a motion to close the public discussion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Miscellaneous business, does any member of council have anything to add that they didn't cover tonight? Okay. Before we move to consent agenda, are there any items any member of council would like to be removed and voted on separately? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Yes.
Mr. Mancinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes. Okay, I think we decided we were going to move back into executive session because of the 3 items, we only got to speak about 2 of them in the previous executive session, if that's all right with everybody. So we will adjourn the regular meeting and move into executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and move into executive?
Motion.
Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. This concludes the regular meeting, and we will move into executive.